Hi, this is Harish, Excel trainer from Smartsheets. I wanted to share you a situation on reporting. So let me explain about the data. So here I have a data submitted by one of the user uh, where there are a set of questions on different Excel skills, and in case he's aware of those skills, he's going to tick in this column E, which says tick if S, and the moment it ticks, the cell will get populated as true, yeah, instead of false. It is through a checkbox we have done. Now, to start with the responses from only from one of the user, and taking this data, we have to do a report and show to the users or to the management on the different types, on the skill levels, and how many questions were asked on those skill level, and how many questions is something the user is aware of. Uh, Something like this. Now I come to this sheet. So now here you can see there are different skills types: basic, intermediate, advanced, Excel 365, Power Query, and in all the skill sets, the number of questions asked, basically through this data, number of questions, and whichever is ticked, that is the positive response. So the number of positive responses. Now presently the solution for this is done via the Excel formulas. So you have this countif function which will count on this column all the skill levels at different conditions, and similarly the number of positive responses will be something with the skill level along with if it is this cell is equals to true. So based on this we are able to achieve the results, and also we are getting the success percentage. Now the requirement is, can this be done through a pivot table? Yeah. Now why pivot table is required is, at times if your data is very huge, or let's say if the data is coming from multiple sources, or you got the responses from many people who sends many Excel files, that is the time I think we should use power tools like Power Query and Power Pivot to combine the data and create a pivot table. So that being the case, it is also good to know if the same report or the same structure can be arrived through a pivot table. Okay, so I go to this checklist sheet, I click on insert pivot table from table or range. Yeah, this is a table, so it locates a table, and I'll say let's create a report into a new sheet. So what I would need is, I need the different skill types, so I'm going to drag it to the rows, and I just need the number of questions asked. I could take any of this, or I could take the questions itself to the values, and then I get the count of questions. Probably I can rename it as number of questions. So if you look at the report that I have, I also need the number of positive responses. Basically, on the skill levels, the questions that people are aware of, they would have ticked. So I'm going to take this tick if S column, the columns, and now here I get the number of true and number of false. Now if you observe one thing, the total is 25. These are the number of questions which were available. Out of this, the number of responses we received is 3. But let's say we do not want false. Yeah, we only need the number of questions asked and things like that. This is where we have a challenge. If I untick false, I get the true statements. Now this is saying only 3, not the 25. That's because under the pivot table, it works on the filter context. So which means we have told that if the response has been true, that means if he knows the question, let's filter for that. So which means he's answered only 3 questions. So the number of questions is filtered on that context, and it only gives you 3. It doesn't give you the total number of questions and the response together. So which means at this stage we have a challenge. If you look at this formula based one, here we have 25 questions. So this output is irrespective of the response, whether he has responded or not, whereas this is something which he has responded. Now both of them together, getting together in a single pivot table is a challenge, because each of the sigma value fields that we work with pivot always works with on the filter context. So here we have filtered on the Excel skill type and as well as the response equals to true. So that is the challenge we have in front of us, that presently through a single pivot table, the structure or the design we want to the report, we are not able to achieve it. Then what is the workaround? Yes, there is a workaround. Maybe you could create a couple of pivots, and then you could create a formulated section where we take the numbers from this pivot and then derive it. Yeah, so I will show you. So let me probably keep this as one report. So probably I'll insert some columns here, and then let's say these are my working section, and this is my pivot 1, and probably I will copy this same pivot and maybe paste it here. So the first pivot talks about the number of questions for each skill level. That's the only, the skill type is the only one on the filter context it is working, not on the responses. Now on the second one, what I'll do is I will probably put the category to the columns. I'm sorry, not category. I'll say tick if s to the columns, and I'm going to tick for something equals to true. Yes. Grand total may not be needed. I'll turn it off. So right now there are the one which is responded by the student is that in the basic skills he is responded for 2 questions. For advanced he knows 1 question, but other categories at this stage he doesn't know. Now the pivot table here, since it works on a filter context, whichever it has an output it is populating, which means it's not populating for the other types, Excel type like Excel 365 or PowerPoint. That's okay. So let's see how best we are able to do a report on this. So I will take the report format that I need and let me put it across here. So number of questions I can just say equals to, right now this is for the Excel basic skills. So number of questions is 11. I'll just click on this cell and you can see the moment you click on a sigma value cell in a pivot table, the get pivot data function comes. Now the only challenge we have now is you can't drag this down because you can see the word basic is hard coded here, part of the item 1 argument. So I'll click on FX and I'll say that instead of hard coding the word basic, let's select from this cell which is the word basic. So this way you are taking the data from the pivot, but it is searching for the type just given in the report. So now I can roll it across and the number of questions is answered. Now coming to the number of positive responses, I could now say this is for the Excel basic type. So equals to, here I will link it to this cell which is having 2, and I can locate this, get 2. So now again if I go into the edit mode on this formula, field under field 1 item 1 basic is hard coded, I'll refer to this cell. If s is equals to true, that is always be able to track only the positive responses, so that can be hard coded. So I get 2. So when I roll it down, now here is where there will be few errors that comes up. That's because for intermediate we do not have an item here in the pivot, isn't it? So that's the reason the get pivot data function gives an error. So how do we fix it? Maybe you could use if error function, something like this. I'll show you all the different options. So I can say if error, if the outcome of the get pivot data is an error, then let's put it as 0. And now once you do that and roll it down, you could see wherever there's an error, it populates as 0 and it is taken care. That means for that particular Excel skills, there were 5 questions and the participant was not able to, he doesn't know the skill set, so is not ticked for those questions. That's what it means. Now what are the other way to do it? Maybe I'll do Control Z. Okay, now you see I have not put the if error function and this has a # reference. So the other way I can still work around is in this pivot table, it is now only showing for the items, pivot items where there is some value, something uh, above zero. Now I can do this. I can keep my cursor on the pivot table field, go to pivot table analyze and field settings, and I would say under layout and print and say show items with no data. That means the complete what do you call unique items of that field will be shown to you irrespective of whether there's a data or not. And once I do it, uh, pivot table now gives me all the different things. But what you can observe is, let me do Control Z. At this stage, the get pivot data was giving me an error. So let me do now redo Control Y. The moment I do it, I think it is picking up the values, which is good. Yeah, that's right. So with this, we are able to create this report. Yeah. So the learning here is, at times there will be situations where the structure of the report that you want may not be possible with a single pivot report. That is the time I think we have to look at creating multiple pivots as a kind of a workings, and then you can create a formulated report which will now depend on the pivot reports and get you the results. Yeah, and then while you're reporting, you can hide these workings as such. Yeah, thank you. Hi all. We learned how to create a report for this situation with a couple of ways. One was through the Excel formulas, and secondly was through the Excel pivot tables, not directly, but uh, where Excel pivot becomes the source for the formulated section where we use the get pivot data function, right? Now third, I'm going to show you how this can be done via cube functions. Now in Excel, if you go to the formula section, under more functions, we have cube functions. So these are the functions which fetches the data from the data model. Yeah. So what is the data model is? Typically you push this data to Power Pivot, and through the Power Pivot, you create a pivot, and or through that becomes a data model, and from that you can start writing the cube functions. Yeah. Now for this to do, a few things are required. You need to install the Power Pivot add-in, and then you can start doing it. Yeah. Now for this scenario, what I'll do is I will not actually write the cube functions. Basically I will load this data to the data model and then create a pivot from there, and from there we have an option where we can convert the pivot tables to the OLAP formulas, which will automatically convert the pivot report into the cube formulas, and then do some workarounds and create a report. Yeah, right, I'll show you that. So what I'll now do is I'll load this data to the data model. So I go to the Power Pivot tab, and being in this table, I'll click on add to data model. The data gets loaded to data model or Power Pivot. Yeah, and there's only one table, so I'm not going to create any relationship as such. So what I'll do is I'll straight away say let's create a pivot table. Yeah, and maybe I'll say a new sheet, and pivot table comes. Yeah, so maybe as I said, this will be my cube formulas. For now, I'll probably add some additional columns before. I'll probably take this report format as it is and bring it down here. And in the pivot table, first I'm going to say show me the type and the number of questions asked, count of questions. Maybe yeah, I think renaming may not help in the cube functions, because typically it takes still the count of functions. That's okay. And now this data, or I'll probably take a copy of this pivot and maybe paste it here so that I can use it later on, because once I convert it to cube formulas, the pivot structure is lost. So this particular pivot answers are good enough for me to populate this. So I'll go to pivot table analyze, and in the calculations group I have something called as OLAP tools. It says convert to formulas, which converts to cube formulas. I'm going to click on this. Now as of now you can see the formula bar is just a static value. Now once I convert it, each of the cell becomes a cube formula, as you can see here, cube member, cube value and things, and I'm more interested on this. So now if I press F2, uh, the cube formula is depending on cell I4 and J3. Yeah. Okay, so what I'll do is now I'll go to cell J3 and copy this and replace J3 with the formula which was there here. Yeah, I'll say paste everything. And similarly for the advanced, it is locating into cell I4, right? Type advanced. So I'm going to copy this as well. And then come here and paste it in this point. Paste everything. Yeah. And now this formula is kind of independent. So I'm going to copy this. Come here and paste it to the number of questions. Yeah. Now the only thing is, now this is related to advanced, but this is for basic. So what I'll do is now there is a hard coding that would have happened for the advanced. So I'm going to remove this, the word advanced. Open a double quotes, that becomes a string, and concatenate with this cell A4, and again concatenate with double quotes, so that a constant string is made as a variable. And now it gives me 11, and then you see the 11 is there for basic. Now I'll roll it down to here, and this is good enough. So yeah, I'm able to get the number of questions of the cube value and cube member functions. Yeah. Now this is no more needed for me. I'm going to take it out. So let's work on getting the number of positive responses. So within the pivot, I will now take Tiki Fest to the columns, and yeah, so I think this is what I was looking for, right? Okay. I will now go to pivot table analyze, and all our formulas, let's say convert to formulas. It is converted. This is for the advanced. So similarly, I'll have to remove the dependency like how I did earlier to this one as well. Okay, I have removed the dependencies of the formula, and I have put across here same the way I did earlier, and now I roll it down, and with this I'm able to get the results. Yeah, for something which is not there, it gives blank cell, probably not a blank cell, you'll have to think it as 0, and that's the way the cube formulas work, and that's okay as long as we are able to get the results, which is good. Yeah, good. So yes, we did the third way of getting this report through the cube formulas. So what are the cube formulas? Cube formulas are something which works from the data model. So the easiest way I did was I loaded the data to the data model, then created a pivot table and put the pivot table into this report, and then converted this into the OLAP formulas, which gave me the cube functions. This I removed the dependencies of the cube formulas and referred to the cells and made it as a single cell formula, and I made it work. Yeah. The only thing is, in case the data changes, here the outcome doesn't change quickly because this is coming through a pivot table, isn't it? So let me probably rename this as the third way we did through cube formulas, and let me place this around here. So we've done 3 different ways: formula based, pivot and cube formulas. Now if you look at this, now basic we have 2 responses for all of them, right? You can see in all these 3 there are 2 responses. So I go back to the data, and maybe I'll take for one more, one more question. So right now it becomes 3. Now the manual one that we have done, yes, it instantly shows 3 because this is a formula where it is taken from directly from the source. Whereas, as you know, in the pivot tables and the cube formula, you will have to do a refresh. Yeah. So even in the cube formula, it is not refresh. So let me do a refresh all, and once you do that, I think you can see for the basic, the responses have changed from 2 to 3, as well as in pivot for crown, it has changed 3. Good. Hi. The last time we saw where the reporting solution was created through formulas, a direct formula using countifs on the source, and also through the get pivot data, which was looking from the pivot tables, and also the cube formulas, which was fetching the data from the data model. So all these 3 things are good. And let's look at also how the solutions can be arrived to the power tools like Power Query and Power Pivot, yeah, or via the DAX formulas. Now, yes, on the same data, we could get the end-to-end solution through Power Query. However, Power Query is a tool more into the data transformation. Typically, this is a very structured or a clean data, and this is only one sheet, So typically, yes, we could do that, but the purpose of Power Query is something very vast, something where you have the data coming from many files, and data is not clean. That is where you can consolidate and do a transformation. Yeah, and then you could still arrive the final report through the Power Query itself on the same kind of a format. However, Power Query is more into a data cleaning tool. Typical reports, it's could be arrived through the Power Pivot using the DAX formulas. Yeah, so I will show you now a model where uh, we will have data coming from different files. We will have to take this to the Power Query, do a cleanup, and then consolidate, and then let's load this to the data model, and through that we will write some DAX formulas to arrive the results. Yeah. So this file, I'm not going to work on this file, so I'll take a new file right now. I've created a file called reporting solution via Power Tools, and I have the reporting structure ready. So although I may not be using this, I'll create a pivot report something on the similar basis. So if I now go to the source data, there's a folder called source data, wherein the many users have submitted their answers. So all these files have been placed in this folder. For example, if I open up Girish file, so the user who has answered is called Girish. So that is can be tracked with the file name. Otherwise, in the data you don't find it. And then you have a sheet called checklist in this file, and in this whichever questions you are aware of is ticked. Yeah, and same like this in a similar structure, you will have the responses coming from other people as well. So all these files have been placed in a folder. So now what we will do is we'll create a Power Query to actually go and access all this file, consolidate the data, and then let the Power Query can feed it to the data model. Yeah. So I'm going to copy this path, come to this file, not this file, and I'll go to the data tab, and here you have the Power Query tools. I'll say get data from file from folder, and then I'm going to put the path here. So yes, this can be done via actual macros automation as well, but I think Power Query is the easiest one to do it, because you don't need a VBA skills to do it, or the language skills. Very easily you can use through the Power Query interface tools to do it. Yeah, so here I've got this thing, so it's asking me what you want to do. So I will probably say we'll say combine and transform data, because I want to combine and do a little bit of cleanup. Probably the file name, we would need the convert that file name as username. So where do we get this from? Yes, I could choose the checklist sheet, or I could choose table one from them. So each of them is coming from this table. So I'll say okay to this. Any one I could choose. So it is evaluating. Now once the evaluation is done, it will open up the Power Query editor. Yeah. So now it has now kind of consolidated all the data into one. What I'll now do is maybe I will replace this word dot xlsx with nothing, so that it goes out. So these are some recorded steps that's going to happen, and then I will say this as responder, who is the person who has responded or answered these questions. Yeah, responder names. Yeah. Good, so the data is ready. So now I'll say close and load to, and then I'll say only create a connection and add this data to the data model. So this now takes the consolidated data to the Power Pivot, and here I have Power Pivot. I'll go to manage. Yeah, here the data is loaded. So about 75 entries, 25 questions for each of them. Yeah, and then I will now say pivot table, insert a pivot table. Maybe I'll take it to a new sheet. Yeah, and then maybe for now I'll insert a slicer on the responder so that user can slice on the responder name. Okay, and now in the pivot table, okay, let me click on any one responder. Now in the pivot table, I'll take, we would need, yeah, skill type wise number of questions that are there. So which means I'll take type to the rows and count of questions, which now gives me 25. And if I click on each of the responder, it would be 25 because for all of them we have asked 25 questions. Yeah. Now the next thing we have to get is the number of positive responses. Yeah. Now typically under the filter context, this number of questions is going to change. Yeah. That is going to happen. Now for example, if I take this category to the not category, take if s to the columns, and if I filter it only for true, then yeah, definitely this is going to change, isn't it? So this is where the constraints, as we also saw earlier with the standard pivot tables, we're going to face. So I think I'm going to create some DAX formulas in the backend or in the data model so that I can use those measures directly into the pivot tables. Yeah. So which means I'll take it out these ones, count of questions, I'll take it out. So I go to the Power Pivot and I go to Manage, and this is where I can write DAX formulas. In Power Pivot, we can write DAX formulas in calculated columns, also in measures. So I'm going to do in the measures. By the way, these DAX formulas or the data model concept is also there in Power BI as well. To save time, I've already created the measures which was not part of this recording. So I've created a measure called number of entries, which calculates and count how many entries are there, and it is taking out the filter context on the type and responder. And then I have a measure to calculate the number of positive responses. Basically, the TKFS column equals to true, and then the success percentage, which is nothing but the division of the positive responses by number of entries. So now when I come back to Excel, in my pivot table, these measures comes here. So now let me take this here, number of entries, number of positive responses, success percentage, and I'm able to get the results. Yeah. Now right now it is sliced only for the responder case. Now let me try for other one. It's Mahesh, it works. 15 questions is answered. Suresh, 8 questions is answered. Now let us do a bit of testing. So what I'll do is now Suresh has answered for only 8. Let us probably add another 2 more responses to his file and then see how the outcome will come. Yeah. So right now for Excel 365 is not answered anything, and maybe Power Query, let's say he knows another question as well. So let me put both of them. So this is for Suresh. So let me go back to the source data. I'll open Suresh file, and under Excel 365, let's say he knows XLOOKUP function, and then Power Query, one more question also is aware of now. Yeah, so 2 more questions has been added. I'll save this file, and now if I filter for this column here, if s which is equals to true, it's coming up to 10 entries. Yeah, so which is from 8 it's been increased to 10. So I save this file, close this file. Now my only work is to just do a refresh all. So once that happens, the Power Query runs again, takes the updated data, consolidates, submits Power Pivot, and then yes, we got the result as well. So now you see this Excel 365 1 and Power Query 1 from 1 to 2, and number of questions has been increased to 10 now, or responses. And this way is another way where you could get this report. So which means now we worked on all the different situations. So lesser the data, yes, you could get it done with an Excel formula or get pivot data function, or loading this data to the data model and then arriving via Q formulas. However, if the data is coming from multiple places, copy pasting everything into a single place and then doing the classical way is quite tough. That is where I think you can take the help of power tools like Power Query, which can transform, consolidate the data, and then with the help of DAX formulas in the data model, you can create your own calculations and use those measures in the pivot tables. Good. I hope you like this video and hope you can learn something from this. Thank you.